What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today was Call of Duty Next Day, and the early access portion of the beta for Modern Warfare 4 is live. And just like every year, I wanted to share all of my initial impressions after playing at COD Next. So I'm going to be talking about some of the things I liked about the game, what I disliked about the game, some things where I'm like maybe just concerned. I'm not too sure where I fall on it yet, but it's something that I think could potentially be an issue, but I didn't actually run into an issue yet. Keep in mind with this is my first impression. So this is after a couple hours of solid gameplay time. Nearly all of that gameplay was for the COD Next event, so playing against other YouTubers and streamers and some developers mixed in there as well. And because of that, matchmaking will not be discussed in this video at all. I know it's a very big deal to a lot of people. It's something that a lot of people are very curious about. That's the type of thing where we're going to have to play through, especially the open beta next weekend, to get a better feel for that. And so I just wanted to set expectations up front. Matchmaking will not be included in this part. I'm just focusing on the game itself. Also, with this being my first impressions, they will of course evolve over time, and I will be sharing those updated opinions and feedback as the beta goes on. So without further ado, let's dive right into this with the things that I liked about the game. The first thing I noticed right away is the movement feels very good. I'm actually really liking where the movement is at right now. It does feel a bit toned back compared to like Black Ops 6 and Black Ops 7. It's not quite as crazy of a slide, for instance, and obviously we don't have omni movement and wall bounces and stuff. But in saying that, it feels so much better than Infinity Ward's most recent game, Modern Warfare 2. It's much more responsive. You can cancel your slide. You can slide and shoot in the game as well. Movement is available as a solid aggressive option, but I don't think it'll be quite as frustrating to play against as it has been in the past couple years of Call of Duty. Now, on that note, I do have some slight concerns about slide to prone or slide to supine. Those animations can be quite jarring, and I'm a bit concerned that that is going to become like the new movement meta technique. And if it does, I think things are going to be a little cheesy in that sense. So that's something I definitely just want to keep an eye on as time goes on. But that's one part of the movement that I'm not really loving at this point. Going off of that though, outside of like the slides and stuff, another thing I'm really liking about this is the freedom of map navigation and the fact that they have really noticeably improved your mantle speeds, again, compared to Infinity Ward's most recent game, which I'm going to be using as a baseline a lot for this, which is Modern Warfare 2. So even a high mantle where you're jumping up and grabbing a ledge and then pulling yourself up, that happens so much faster now than Modern Warfare 2. And combining that with the fact that, just like with recent Infinity Ward games, they let you mantle on almost anything, you can really take advantage of some creative routes and ways to get up into a window, for instance, or from point A to point B. And I think that just adds a lot more depth and life to the map and provides that extra layer of strategy that you can use while also being aggressive. You're not just rushing in like a headless chicken. You've got some thought behind those movements that you're making. So that is another big upside for this, at least in my opinion, as somebody that likes doing that kind of stuff. As for the gunplay overall, I think it feels quite good. It seems like the muzzle smoke effect, they've practically just removed from the game. It's technically still there, but it's at a point where, unless you're looking for it, you're not going to see it. And I would much rather it be not enough of that than too much. So I'm happy to see that. I'm happy with where that's at. I will say when it comes to the gun shake when firing, it's not nearly as bad as Modern Warfare 2 in my experience so far. But if I'm being a little nitpicky here, I would say perhaps it's still just a tad too much gun shake for my liking. Like, this is an area where in Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops 6, Black Ops 7, the gun shake never even really crosses my mind while playing. It's not something I even notice. Whereas when playing this, I do notice it there as something that's just being a little bit visually obstructive while engaging in a gunfight. Again, at least it's an improvement over Modern Warfare 2. And if it doesn't change from where it's currently at, this is a level I can at least live with. And another key thing to keep in mind is I've barely used any attachments at this point. I have to actually grind and unlock through a lot of attachments. I was trying to use a variety of weapons, so I wasn't really grinding one gun and getting a bunch of attachments on it. So I think this opinion may evolve as time goes on, but that's where I'm at initially with that at least. Additionally, on the topic of gunplay here, this one really isn't a good or bad thing, but I just feel like it fits nicely into the video here. This is the time to kill. It turns out I've actually calculated all of the time to kill values now, collecting the actual damage values in the firing range and matching that with the rate of fire values. And it does appear they've made some damage adjustments compared to the alpha build that we saw. Either that or perhaps some of the values I was collecting were not within the maximum damage range, whereas now I do have the maximum damage range values. Essentially what I wanted to say here is the time to kill is actually quite noticeably faster than what I previously calculated. And therefore, it is more along the lines of like Modern Warfare 2019, Modern Warfare 2. It is a fast time to kill Call of Duty game. It's not a bit on the slower side like Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops 6, Black Ops 7. This is going to be quite fast, and that may be a bit jarring to get into for those of us that have been playing for the past few years. When it comes to this time to kill, I say this every single year. I can take either style of time to kill. I think there's pros and cons attached to either. I slightly lean in the direction of the slower style of time to kill, but I'm also happy to mix some fast time to kill games in there, just so the games don't feel too similar on a year-to-year basis. And therefore, I'm actually kind of looking forward to another fast time to kill game this year. And so I don't really see this as a negative, but really this is an area where it's largely just going to come down to personal preference. Some people are going to love this, others may hate it. Next up, let's talk maps a little bit. And based on the maps I've played so far, which hasn't even been all the maps that we currently have available, I am liking what I'm seeing with them so far. Even that tiny like shipment style map, I believe it's called like Transit 213. That's where you're seeing the gameplay right now in the background. I'm not a big fan of like super tiny maps in Call of Duty, but as far as tiny maps go, I don't mind that one. And I would definitely take that over shipment any day of the week. Additionally, rooftops, really big fan of that. Cachette plays super well. Essentially, so far, I haven't played a map yet that I've come away feeling negative about. And so I do think that's a good sign. Next, talking about Kill Block a little bit. I really enjoy Kill Block. I think this is an excellent evolution for the gunfight mode, where the map is changing every 2 rounds and you never really know what you're going to get there and you have to adapt to that. I think that's an excellent change of pace away from the standard like 6v6 experience. And I do picture a lot of people getting really into Kill Block and maybe even playing that as their primary mode. I can tell you right now, it won't be my primary mode throughout the year, but I do see myself at least coming back and playing it from time to time for that change of pace. And I think that's great. Next, another brand new thing that they've been marketing really heavily is the new hip fire, where there's no bloom and your bullet goes where your gun is pointing. This is not to be confused with the bullets always go directly on the center dot on your screen. Your gun is still going to be moving around in your hands as you hip fire, and it will be bouncing around as you fire as well. And as a result, while this is technically different, what I've noticed in practice is this hip fire doesn't feel all that different from normal hip fire in Call of Duty. I would say I feel a little more confident with hip firing, and it has felt a little more accurate, but not by like a major degree. And if you hip fire on a wall, for instance, especially while moving your feet, you're going to see that. You're going to see that your bullets are still bouncing around left and right all over the place because your gun is bouncing around left and right all over the place. And so functionally, it does largely just feel like normal hip fire in COD. And I think that's a good thing. I actually had a bit of concern about this being way too accurate in hip fire, meaning that hip fire would just become like the new meta and aiming down sight would lose a lot of its value. And I don't think it's at that level. It still largely feels like normal hip fire, just a little bit better in my experience. And then finally for this section, just the things that really stood out to me with my initial impression. I am really enjoying the general vibes, the aesthetic of the game. That's something where Infinity Ward always really excels, in my opinion at least. And another big part of this is their UI and their menu navigation. Really nice improvement there. Not only are the menus super responsive because you don't have to go through all those tabs, and as you're tabbing through, it's trying to load each of those tabs, which creates a short delay, and everything just feels really unresponsive. And that's what we've been dealing with for so many years now. It's also quite intuitive to navigate. In fact, during the stream, somebody asked me to look at something on a class setup, for instance, and I have very little experience with this menu at this point, and yet I navigated directly to that exact thing they wanted me to look at almost instantly without even thinking about it. And it actually surprised me on stream. I was like, wait, how did I get here so fast? I can't believe I just did that. Because in recent Call of Duty games, you wouldn't be able to do that. You'd have to wait for each of those tabs to at least partially load. And there'd be that awkward little delay that you'd experience that just makes things feel unresponsive. That's not what I'm experiencing with this. And I think that's an excellent positive for this game. And those are the main bullet points, the things that really stood out to me immediately that I'm really liking about this game so far. Now let's get into the second part of this, which is either things that I don't like or maybe just have some concerns or feedback about. This section is almost definitely going to be longer than the first one. I feel like I always need to explain this in these types of videos. Just because it's longer doesn't mean I hate the game. It just generally takes more time to explain why I dislike something or to provide that more detailed feedback. And with that in mind, let's dive in, starting it off with spawns. Unfortunately, it does appear that these are the usual modern Infinity Ward spawns that we've been used to with their past couple games. A lot of people like to call it the squad spawn style system. That's the vibes I'm getting so far with the spawn system, and I was really trying to keep an eye out for that. So what I mean by this is not that I just experienced some bad spawns where like I spawned into somebody's line of sight or anything. I'm talking the general spawn logic and how that interacts with the gameplay flow. One thing I was noticing was a lot of mid-map spawns and a lot of spawns where like I would spawn in, I would start sprinting out of spawn, and just a few seconds later, I would notice the enemies are spawning behind me. In addition to that, in Domination, it doesn't seem like they're really anchoring the spawns toward the ends of the maps that are tied to the home flag that your team holds. There are, once again, a lot of those mid-map spawns where you're spawning more in like the neutral zone, but on the sides of the map. And this style of a spawn system leads to a lot of chaotic flow and a loss of the concept of map control in the game, which is extremely important, especially for game modes like Domination. It's very hard to control your surroundings and to actually gain that map control and hold that map control. And to be clear, I'm not talking about like strict spawn trapping or anything. I'm just talking about controlling your area of the map and being able to control your angles appropriately and gaining ground on enemies and being rewarded for gaining that ground on enemies. That's not the same as just pushing way up on the map, locking them into a very strict area of their spawn, and then shooting fish in a barrel. What I've noticed with this is with those spawns often going toward the sides of the map, this messes with the flow of combat on a map, and that flow is often contradicting the layout of the Domination flags. So if you have a linear flag layout, oftentimes you spawn in, and instead of spawning in behind the A flag, for instance, and then after that you've got the B flag, after that you've got the C flag, instead you're spawning toward the middle of the map with the C flag on your left, the A flag on your right, and the B flag in the middle. And the enemies are doing the same on the other side of the map, causing you to be fighting perpendicular to what appears to be the intended flow of the map. And it just makes for some really awkward sightlines, some really awkward plays in Domination, and map control is not really feeling like it's all that important in the Domination game mode. And even the Team Deathmatch game modes as well. It's less important there, but I'm also noticing like a similar trend there where sometimes that flow of combat doesn't seem to be matching the intended flow of the map. So at the moment, based on my initial experience here, I think spawns are my biggest gameplay concern because they are so important to the experience, and I've already not been liking what I've been seeing with them so far. Next up, performance-wise, I was noticing some performance issues, but only in certain matches. Most of my matches that I played, everything was feeling great, playing great, no issues. But some of the matches I was running into, I was getting little micro stutters that were preventing certain inputs from being registered, leading to like dead slide situations, or like I'm telling my character to do something and I'm hitting this certain button combination telling my player to do that, and one of those buttons in that combination doesn't register and it causes my player to do something totally unexpected. And that's obviously really frustrating to experience that. So just wanted to point that out. Even though it wasn't a really common occurrence, it was happening to me. Another thing I noticed right away is a missing setting that's having a pretty big impact on my aim, especially anytime there's an optic in play. It's generally not too much of an issue with iron sights, but this is the affected versus independent setting for your aim down sight field of view. That does not exist in this build of the game. I hope that's just a beta thing and we will be seeing it down the road, but it does appear we don't have the option to change that, and that was really throwing me off when aiming down sight with optics that zoom in a little bit. After that, another thing I noticed is, unfortunately, there are no score streaks in this game. Now, opinions will vary on this, of course, but in my opinion, score streaks are far superior to kill streaks, especially for objective game modes, because they properly stratify things to reward the appropriate amount of score for specific actions, like playing the objective, for instance. And kill streaks just don't have the same effect. Now, I will say, at least they went with more of a point streak system here, similar to what we saw in Modern Warfare 3, but more similar to COD Ghosts, where you can get partial progress. So if you cap a neutral flag in Domination, you get the same credit as half a kill toward your kill streak. And if you capture a contested flag, so a flag that the enemy previously held, or the B flag at the beginning, you get the same amount of progress towards your streak as you would with a kill. While that's better than pure kill streaks, it still just doesn't properly reward objective play, in my opinion, and especially in the kill confirmed game mode. I am not happy with how they've got that balanced at the moment, because what I was noticing is if you confirm a kill, it appears to only give you the credit of a quarter kill. So you have to pick up 4 red tags to get the same progress toward your streak as 1 kill. And then with denies, as far as I could tell just visually, it looks like it's 1/5. It looks like it's even a little bit lower. So you'll have to pick up 5 blue tags to get the same credit as 1 kill. And that is not balanced appropriately, in my opinion, to encourage people to properly play the objective. I am not going to risk losing my streak for a quarter of the progress that I can get for just getting a kill. Instead, I'm just gonna wait and get my kill. And then I'll pick the tags up if it's convenient for me, but I'm not gonna go out of my way to do that, and I'm not going to risk my life to do that. And I don't think that's a good mindset to be encouraging and promoting in a game mode like Kill Confirmed. So this is an area where I was quite disappointed to see this. Again, it's at least slightly better than standard kill streaks, but it's not nearly as good as what Modern Warfare 2 had, for instance, in my eyes, which is a toggle, where if you want kill streaks, you can use kill streaks. If you want score streaks, you can use score streaks. And this point streak system they're using is a weird half measure that I personally think is outdated and inferior to proper score streaks. Either way, after that, let's talk about footsteps a little bit. While I definitely want to give them credit for including a ninja perk in the game, I love the fact that we have that option. My initial impression of the footstep audio is it does seem too loud at a distance as well as through surfaces. In fact, I've noticed it's so loud that it's been very confusing in certain situations where I'll hear footsteps that sound like this guy is right around the corner. So if I come around the corner, I should be in point blank range to this guy. But when I do come around the corner, it turns out he's 20 meters away from me. And yet his footsteps sounded like he was just around that corner from me, and he wasn't in my line of sight either, which is not only just a confusing situation because the audio you're hearing isn't matching up with the visuals or the expected visuals, but on top of that, obviously that has me very concerned about the balance of the footsteps versus the ninja perk, and in its current state, especially if you're in the higher level lobbies, ninja will 100% be a crutch perk, and if you're not using it, you're going to be putting yourself at a massive disadvantage. And so I hope this is something they're willing to tweak and tune. It almost sounds like it's a bug with how loud they are at the distances that they're at, because again, it just doesn't seem to align with what I would expect to see in the world. But that has been my experience with footsteps so far. I am concerned about it, but at least we have the ninja perk, although it looks like we might have to use the ninja perk. Next up, something I was just mildly disappointed to see, and I wanted to bring this up, is the riot shield. While I do like the fact that they made it a field upgrade, rather than just a weapon you can select on your class, and therefore you have to wait for it to charge up before you can pull it out. Unfortunately, one area of that I thought this was going to be solving was the turtle situation, as we call it in the community, where people will run around with the shield on their back, giving them that added layer of protection when that weapon isn't even in use. And yet, even with it as a field upgrade, you can put it on your back. Now, this is still an improvement over what we had. It's not the end of the world. I just wanted to point out that I was a bit disappointed when I saw that, because my assumption is that that wouldn't be possible, and that having it as a field upgrade was going to solve that issue. Next up, let's get into some of the nitty-gritty details here. I have been collecting a lot of the damage values in the firing range, and there's a few things that I noticed. First off, I noticed with a few of the guns, we have 3 different body multiplier zones as well as a headshot zone. Meaning, within one given damage range, you have the potential to deal 4 different damage values depending on where the body you hit them. And in my eyes, that is way overkill. I can totally understand and accept having a bonus damage zone to the body, so you have 3 different damage zones, like your torso, legs, and head, for instance. That's cool if you want to stratify and balance things that way. I'm totally fine with that balance. But adding that extra damage zone on top of that, I feel is overkill and will just lead to inconsistency, and I don't think it really adds anything positive to the balancing experience. So just a little detail I wanted to point out there. Keep in mind, that's not the case for like all of the guns in the game. I was just noticing it with a few of the guns. Another thing I noticed while collecting this data is, at least in the beta build of the game, we don't have advanced stats in the menu. So you can't see many of your gun's exact stats, like your handling stats, for instance, and more importantly, you can't see exactly how the attachments are impacting your gun when putting it on. And my big hope here is this is just a beta thing, and we will actually have those advanced stats at launch. That has been the case with previous Call of Duty games, but then again, this is Infinity Ward, and they are not known for being very transparent about those stats. And I don't like that. I think you should be able to build a setup and be confident in what you're doing to that setup, and not left guessing or just going based off a feel, or waiting for guys like myself to be doing very detailed frame-by-frame testing to let you know exactly what is going on. I think you should be able to see all of that for yourself so you can make proper, informed decisions. Another thing on that note is the firing range. I've just got to say, I was a little disappointed to see the firing range. It doesn't look like they made any real improvements, or they didn't innovate at all in the firing range. Yes, it looks slightly different, but like it's the same dummy models. It's a lot of the same textures. And while yes, of course, this isn't nearly as important as the actual like core 6v6 gameplay, It's just one of those things where it would have been nice to see some evolution and some improvement here. And I was excited to hop into the firing range to see what was different and maybe to see some new features, and I just wasn't seeing that. Additionally, in the firing range, unfortunately, we've got that system back where if you want to test something out and then edit that loadout, maybe you want to swap attachments out, you have to back out of the firing range, which has a little short loading time. Then you have to go to create a class, adjust the attachments, and then reload the firing range. And that just feels unnecessarily clunky. I know we have seen that in some previous games, but that's a thing that got solved. And it's been so nice in recent Call of Duty games to not have to do that. If you want to swap an attachment, you can do that on the fly without having to reload the entire firing range. So I do hope that's another area they can polish up for launch so we don't have to do that every time. Now after that, another thing you guys have probably noticed by now is for the best play that plays at the end of the match, they've got this new style of system where it will speed up and slow down time depending on what's going on. So between kills in the best play, it'll suddenly have like a fast forward look to the next kill. And while I totally get what they're going for with this, and I think there's actually a lot of potential here. I think they have the potential to make this look really cool, and it allows for them to pack a bit more into a best play without extending the length of the best play. In its current state, it just feels a little bit janky. Like, I think they need to smooth some of those transitions with the ramp up and the slowdown of time, because it almost looks like you're just experiencing lag and like rubber banding or stuttering when you're watching that. And so to me, it just kind of looks like it's in an unfinished state right now, which it very well may be. And then finally here, one last thing I wanted to point out is more of a concern that I have rather than something I've directly had an issue with so far, largely because of the types of players I'm playing against, and we don't have access to the full game with all of the equipment and perks and everything. But just looking through the create a class, I noticed a few things. First off, there are a lot of options as placeable equipment and trap style equipment. No ability to use Ghost and Ninja together for a full stealth combo to really be stealthy and flanky and get behind those enemies. It looks like they're going to be restricting that playstyle quite heavily. On top of that, Ghost is working while stationary, which isn't too surprising with an Infinity Ward game, but that means you can literally just sit in a corner and not move at all and not appear on the enemy's radar. And then combine all of that with the fast time to kill that we've got. Individually, those might not be issues, but altogether, that combination of all of those factors I just laid out is a concern for me for the general pacing and flow of a match. It has me fearing that that Sentinel playstyle, the hard camping playstyle, setting up a bunch of traps, sitting in a corner, waiting for somebody to walk into your sights, and then killing them before they have a chance to react because the time to kill is so fast. I am a little bit concerned that that playstyle is going to be pushed pretty heavy in this game. I mean, at least one thing I can say about that is we do have better movement this time around relative to Modern Warfare 2, so perhaps that will help us overcome that to a degree and keep that playstyle in check a little bit. I just wanted to point out that that is something that is at least concerning for me and something I'll be keeping an eye on going forward, despite the fact that I didn't actually run into any issues with that yet. And with that, that's where I'm going to leave this video. Overall, based on my experience outside of matchmaking, I definitely think the typical Infinity Ward fans, the guys that loved Modern Warfare 2, love Modern Warfare 2019, they're probably going to enjoy this game. Additionally, it seems like they've taken steps to help bridge the gap a little bit for those that maybe aren't into that style and they're more into the Treyarch style. It seems like they're at least extending a bit of an olive branch there and providing some things to like for those types of players. And I personally tend to fall more in that group. So I think that's nice to see, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to be the type of game for everyone. I mean, it still does have quite a clear Infinity Ward identity to it. And for some people, that's enough for them to not enjoy the game at all. I think the easiest way I'd describe this, though, if I'm trying to like compare it to previous Call of Duty games, is it does feel like it's a proper sequel with nice improvements from Modern Warfare 2, where it's very clear that they learned some key lessons from that game. And a lot of the main gripes that I had with the gameplay design of that game have either been solved completely, like with movement, for instance. That was one of my big gripes with that game. It's not an issue anymore in this game. Or they've at least alleviated some of those concerns and made them less of an issue, like with the visual recoil, for instance. Ideally, I'd like to see that toned down even more, but if they don't, at least it's definitely better than Modern Warfare 2, and I can accept where it's at currently. A similar thing goes with like their footsteps, for instance. I don't really like the way they're balancing the footsteps so far, but at least we've got a ninja perk, and that's something we didn't have in their past couple of Call of Duty games. So to me, it just seems like this is a really proper step up from Modern Warfare 2, while still maintaining a lot of that Infinity Ward identity. Now, at the end of the day, in saying that though, I think the two big factors that are going to have the biggest impact on whether or not I enjoy this game are going to be how they handle the matchmaking and how that feels, as well as the spawns, and whether or not they're willing to make some improvements to that spawn design to help align the flow of combat to the intended flow of the map. And with that, this is where I'm curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. Based on what you've been seeing or experiencing with the game so far, if you have been playing in the beta, how are you feeling about Modern Warfare 2 so far? What are some of the things you like about the game and some things you dislike about the game? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.